Hi, you guys. It has been a really long time since I've posted a demo because I've been trying to figure out a new place to do my demos. It's just that I always do my demos when I'm at home. Now you guys know that. And whenever I do them at home, I find that I keep forgetting things. So now I am finally doing them at the store. Yay, where all my supplies is at. Okay, so the very first thing I wanted to share with you is that I'm going to the demos are going to be just a little bit out of order just because I'm kind of playing catch up here. So just bear with me. We're just going to learn stuff because it's exciting. So today I wanted to share with you ideas for doing inking, inking and distressing. So for those of you that are not familiar with what that is at all, I'm just going to kind of give you a brief little introduction here. So I'm just going to start with this piece of paper here. So this is just a piece of brown paper here. I'm going to grab my ruler. This is a corked back ruler. Corked back ruler is really great for creating that kind of frayed, kind of distressed edge because you can just rip it along that the line, the edge of a ruler there, and you get that kind of frayed kind of look, but it's more controlled, which is so nice. And then that way you're not like, because if you try to rip it yourself, you kind of go off the edge or kind of all over the place. So I'm just going to kind of rip the edges of this just because I wanted to kind of show you, give you a little brief introduction into doing this technique. Okay. Oh, might as well fray all four edges here if I'm going to do it. Obviously, it's not perfect, but it's at least somewhat more controlled than if you were going to try and do it yourself. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is one of my favorite ink pads for doing distressing. I use it regularly. It's just perfect. It's called Walnut Stain. It's a distress ink. Distress is the name of a brand for those of you that are curious. So this is an inking tool, all right? So it's made by Ranger. It's a tool that has Velcro on the bottom with a handle, and then this is a little piece of foam that just sticks right to it. Okay. And then they come in a variety of different, they come in circles, but then they in squares like this, but they come in a pack, so you can get a bunch of these, so then that way you can use a variety of different colors. So if you wanted to have one dedicated to brown, one dedicated to purple, one dedicated to blue, you can do that. Okay, so this was the original inking tool. To this day, even though they've come up with all sorts of different ones, I still use this tool all the time. So it's great because you pick up color off of an ink pad, right? Then that way it's a little bit more, it's not so intense, it's not as concentrated. So then you can go up here and you can just brush on the color. See the difference already? I mean, just from one side of the paper to the other, it's hardly any effort, but it's great because especially if you have a torn edge, you can go in and just make it look a little bit more antiqued. So fun. I just love that look. All right, so what's cool about this is that you can then take the tool and kind of go onto the surface. You can kind of rub your tool like from the corner into the middle here, so then you kind of get that distressed look. And you can see the difference here. This is the back side and this is the front side. Whenever I'm creating something, especially like a little card that maybe I'm going to be putting, like maybe it's a little gift tag or something like that, I will want to do both sides. It drives me crazy when people like decorate one side, but if you can see the other side, then it's not distressed. I'm just like, but if you're going to distress something, you might as well distress the whole thing, make the entire thing look old. I once had someone ask me, they were like, well, what is that supposed to represent? I'm supposed to represent like dirt, basically, over time, making it look kind of old and antiqued. So then I will also share with you that you can add even more texture to this, though it's very hard to control, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. Okay, so you can actually take the concentrated color on the ink pad and actually bring it directly to the page here. Now what's going to happen is you get even darker colors, and you can see here that it almost looks like it's burned, but again, it's just ink. For so many years as a kid, people were like, oh, to get the age defects you burn it, and I'm just like, with a flame? Like, you mean like a match or like a lighter, and then you're actually trying to play with fire, control fire, while you're trying to like make something that you created look old? I'm like, this just seems like, one, kind of dangerous, and two, like you can't really control it, whereas doing the inking, the ink pad, you can really create some interesting effects. Again, you can even brush it directly right onto the surface, as you see here, and you can add even more just interest to your page. So I just wanted to share that with you because again, the inking effect is so cool. There's so much you can do. So that being said, let's play with some more ideas. Okay. Now, this is one of my favorite papers to use. It kind of looks like parchment already. It's called an AstroParch. This is the text weight, which is the lighter weight paper option of this paper. It also comes in a cardstock, which is also really nice. It's the same color. So I'm going to crinkle it up. Again, I'm trying to make something look aged and old, right? So you can crinkle it up lots of times until you get a nice soft crinkle. And so if you get the soft crinkle, you uncrinkle it, and then you crinkle it again. Uncrinkle it, and crinkle it again. So you're crinkling and uncrinkling lots of times. So this is really great if you're like wanting to like draw a map of some kind. This is a really cool way to kind of get that really interesting effect. And then you can take your inking tool and actually just rub it right across the top, and it brings out all of those cool little folds and everything. I will tell you that in working in this industry for so many years, the inking tool and the inking effect, I use this all of the time. It's so cool. There's so much you can do with it. You can really make your art just look a lot more interesting. Even if you're doing card making, you can make it just look more fun and exciting. Once you ink up the middle around all those little folds, you can go back in here and ink up the edges, and it doesn't take a lot. You can even just run the edge of this tool just right along the edge, and that will just bring out that line there and just making it a little bit more darker and distinct. So it's just, again, the effect is really cool. So I just wanted to share with you the difference that an inking tool really can make. Okay? All right, so those are our first ideas just to kind of get you started. So now let's move into some more fun stuff. So this is paper I carry. It is a map looking paper. So I'm going to show you how to make this map. Well, we're going to work together here since you already know some of my tips and tricks here. We're going to make this look aged, okay? So first off, I'm going to rip all. Okay, so now we're going to take, oh, sorry, I got a little bit interrupted there, so you guys are going to have to bear with me here. All right, so we were ripping the edge here. Let me go ahead and just rip this. All right, we're going to do that on all four sides. And down here. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my inking tool here, and now I'm going to add some ink to this edge here, all the way along all four sides. Now, it's my plan that I'm probably going to be mounting this onto another card or onto something else. In fact, actually, if I'm going to be mounting it onto a card, I just realized this needs to be just a little bit more narrow. So I'm not so worried about the back side of this, which I know is green. So I'm just going to let you know that you can create something aged, and you don't have to do the back side if you're going to be mounting it on something else. Okay? All right. Now again, I want this to be just a little bit more aged looking, so after I've inked up the edges there, now I'm going to add some crinkles in it, so I'm just going to crinkle this up. I know part of it will probably rip because it is cardstock instead of that nice text weight paper, but again, it's okay because I'm kind of going with that. It's kind of my thought of what I wanted to do there. Okay? All right. Okay, so now I'm going to go in here and add in all of my little fold lines and everything, and oh my gosh, just came up with another idea, and I know that technically, oh, do I even have it in here? Oh no, I'm looking for a tiny little stamp. I'm thinking about adding like a little boat stamp in here would be super cute, but you could add in like other little stamps and things in there as well. And now just to make this look even more old, I'm going to take my ink pad here and just lightly brushing that really dark color all the way along the top, and I'm going to go ahead and do that along the edges as well. And if some of the ink is still a little bit wet, you can take your inking tool and just kind of ink it up again, and there we have it. So now we have an old looking map, again, even though it was originally that kind of more of that kind of grayed color of paper. Okay, so again, inking and aging can make it look something like really old, make it look burned, and but again, it's just using inks in unique and different ways. Okay. All right, so now let's take this to the next level here. I'm going to clean off my surface here really fast. Oops. So then that way we can move on to some other ideas. So you guys are just going to bear with me here while I clean. Okay. So now I'm going to start with some other ideas here. So let's say that you have a piece of paper and you're like, oh, I love the way that looks, but maybe you want to kind of change the effect a little bit. So check this out. So you can use, instead of using the inking tool and trading out the sponge every time, you can use these little sponges. These are by Nuvo. They're called blending sponges. It's a pack of 4. And honestly really notorious for using one color on one side and then another color on the other side until the color kind of wears off. But I'll show you some of my older ones. Over time, they do get kind of gunky just because they get so much ink on them. But again, the tool still works itself. It doesn't like fall apart on you really easily or anything like that. It's a really great tool. So I use these a lot for doing inking. So for today, I'm going to use just one side here, and I'm going to actually use the green. I'm using Mowed Lawn. So what's interesting about this is that you can pick up a color that's in the paper and completely change the effect by inking it up with different colors. Okay, so this is a really bright green, but check this out. When you're inking up the edges, now you have a little bit more control with these sponges, okay, but you can also lay down quite a bit of color, especially because my ink pad is so saturated here. It's a really nice newer ink pad. But you can see what happens here, completely changing this effect. So isn't that cool? So now it suddenly looks a lot more woodsy. And then I can mount the card onto like an ivory and then onto a green card base, and it would look totally different than the original idea of the paper, which I feel kind of has like a wintry kind of look to it. Okay, so here's another idea. So this paper was exceptionally hard to match because it is kind of an awkward color. Okay, so I'm going to show you two different inks that I thought would actually work well with it. So again, I'm just going to grab one of my other inking tools here. I'm going to start with this one. This is going to, let me clean this off really fast. Sorry, there's green ink all over the place here. All right, so for this one, I'm going to use the dried marigold color of Distress ink. I'm going to pick up some color here. And you can see it's just really fascinating. As you're laying down the color, you suddenly can get this like really bright kind of orange look to it. Because trust me, this color was kind of a difficult color to try and match here. And I know that the orange on this, you're like, I don't know about that. I'm not sure how that's going to work. But if you use that kind of color here and you use it all the way around, it actually does kind of tie into the rest of the card because it's not just in one spot, it's all the way around. And just to kind of finish this off, you can go in here and you can actually add in more and more inks all the way around to kind of make it look more and more distressed. Distressed just makes it look like old. Okay. So you can really have nice control there with your sponge. And since I have kind of a larger amount in this section, I want to have kind of a larger amount in another section too, so it doesn't look out of place. But then you can take your stamp, so if you have any stamp that you want to use, you could use the stamp and stamp in the same color. Oops, I just realized I think I might have stamped it just a little bit straight, or a little bit, oh, that's actually not so bad. It's not as crooked as I thought it was going to be. But you can stamp your sentiment in the same color as the background. So again, it all kind of ties. So after you've stamped your image on your paper here, you can add even more of this color and that effect to your creation here by taking that same color of ink, smushing it down on your craft mat, and then this here is the Midas Touch shimmer pen, which has a little bit of like gold metallic in it, and you can squirt some of that out, kind of creating this kind of pool of color that also has shimmer in it, and then you can do the splatter effect on your page. So what happens is you get even more of that color into your creation here, but it also adds a little bit of shimmer to the page. So once that dries here, then we can see the effect, which is actually pretty cool. Okay. So now you get the splatter here, splatter effect that you see here. And I know you can't really see it in person here, but you can also get, there's a little bit of a shimmer effect. Some of this is still wet here, but you can kind of create that different kind of an idea. Okay, so then with that same paper, all right, just gonna be this guy here. Okay, same color palette and everything. Now I wanted to add a different color into this. So here, I'm gonna use the iced spruce color. Originally I used the dried marigold. Grab my sponge again here. Brush off some of my other color here. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up the iced spruce color and check this out. So again, kind of landing more in this kind of grayed color here. You can see that now this paper looks almost wintry. Isn't that incredible? So again, kind of brushing this across the page. I'm going to do this on all four sides here. Ignore the green that's still on my sponge here. And then we're just going to brush that across the entire thing. again, you can see how the color does actually match, but it's just kind of an interesting kind of tone on tone because again, you're kind of picking up this more of this kind of grayed background here. I'm kind of brushing on color, kind of making it look kind of aged and distressed. And then we get a totally different look, again, with that same paper. Totally different effect. So kind of depending on if you want to pick up some of the warmer tones, make it a summery card, or picking up more of the cool tones and suddenly it's a wintry card. Again, we can use the same stamp. Wishing you lots of smiles. And we'll go ahead and just stamp that in place right here. Again, tying the whole card together by having our stamped image and the inking around the edge all in the same color. So there we have our two different designs with the same paper and using inking to create totally different effects. All right. Okay, you guys. So that is today's demo. I hope you learned something fun, learned about the world of inking and distressing. I will tell you it's really fun and it's really addicting once you kind of get started with it because there is, like I said, there's so much you can do and it really makes a big difference for how your art kind of pops and kind of comes together. I hope you had lots of fun. Thanks for coming to today's demo, you guys. See you later.